This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sankeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right, Houston, Harris County, you got me. Another tip from me. Talk, inspiration, and prayer with Gilbert Garcia. Thank you, studio audience. And so here we go. And as Ed Sullivan would say, and I'm dating myself, we have a really big show because, again, we have someone that I've known now for quite some time. I haven't gotten to know him as well as I'd like to, but, man, he is awesome. And, frankly, he's a Renaissance man. He's one of those guys that just seems to know so much. And I think he's perfect to be the editorial editor for the Houston Chronicle, Mr. Evan Mintz. Welcome, Evan. It's so great to have you.
Gilbert, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. It's a real treat to be here today.
Well, it's going to be great. We're going to have a great show. And, of course, the show is called Talk, Inspiration, Prayer. I'm getting a little bit of feedback there, Mr. Producer, almost a slight echo, but that's okay. I want to do a quick prayer. And really, it's a prayer for peace because, boy, do we need peace right now in this world. There's so many things going on, and it seems with all the attention on now what's going on with Iraq that we forgot about what's going on with Ukraine. And so I want to just do a very short prayer for all of those out there listening in Houston and Harris County. And this is a prayer for world peace. And it says, Almighty God, I pray for peace in our world, where there is often conflict and strife. Bring an end to violence and injustice. Inspire leaders to work towards the well-being of all people. May your love and compassion prevail, uniting nations in a common pursuit of peace. Let your kingdom of peace reign on earth as it is in heaven. In the name of Jesus, the Prince of Peace, I pray, amen. So, Evan, real quick, I want to go through, it's pretty extraordinary what you've accomplished already. Come on, it really is.
Thank you.
Really, come on. I know, it is. When you were young, Evan, and you were walking the halls of, are you Houstonian?
I'm a lifelong Houstonian.
Okay, where'd you go to high school?
I went to St. John's.
St. John's. When you were walking the halls of St. John's, did you ever think that you'd become the editorial editor of the Houston Chronicle?
Well, I'll be honest, that was my dream.
Was it really?
Yes, and I wanted to be a pundit. I wanted to be someone who commented on cable news, who wrote columns, but I kind of had the sense that that's a really hard job to get. And I wanted it because I will say, when I was young, growing up, I had a temper. I would get in fights with people. The arguments would turn into fights, and fights would turn into physical fights. And you can tell from looking at me, I did not win a lot of fights. So what I started to do is I would write up the thing I was mad about in the student newspaper, and turned out I was really good at that. And I started winning fights sort of for the first time. And it wasn't just with other students. It would be with school administration. It would be with parents. It would be with alumni. And I turned out that I was good at this. And there's also something to be said about when you're in high school, and you find yourself in a position where sort of people see you doing your thing, whether you're the quarterback for the football team, whether you are playing guitar on stage. When people see you doing stuff, folks start to pay attention to you. And if you're a guy, girls start to pay attention to you. And suddenly, I found myself getting attention from girls.
So you became the sexiest journalist in all of St. John's.
There was just a little bit of an incentive there I didn't quite realize was going to happen. But I also knew that, journalism was not a booming industry at the time. And when I went off to college, I went to Rice and had this internship with Texas Monthly Magazine. And the editor-in-chief, who was Evan Smith at the time, went off to found Texas Tribune later, came in and sat down all of us interns and said, listen, I know you want to be journalists. Please get job training for something else. And he's saying, I'm not telling you don't be journalists. I'm telling you that the industry is in dire straits. For your own sake, you should have a backup plan, but also if you have another job, another skill set, it makes you a better journalist because there's something there that you have expertise in that you can bring to the job.
Very interesting. Now, of course, I know you went to law school. We're going to talk about that. But going back, so who inspired you? I mean, I understand you had the skill set and, frankly, the desire. And what I've learned in life and what I always talk about on the show is if you love something, you're going to be good at it. And you love it. And that's why you're good at it. But were your parents in journalism? Or, I mean, was anybody in the news business?
Well, not really. My dad, when he was in college, he went to Penn and he wrote about sports for the Daily Pennsylvanian. So he kind of had a little bit there, but he went on to become a lawyer, too. He does tax law. But when he started to see that I was getting involved in politics or I was curious about it, he got me a subscription to Mother Jones magazine.
Oh, how wonderful.
Of all things. And he sort of got this sense that, listen, you're having fun out there as like a teenage lefty. I'm going to give you a little like professional grounding for it. And so he helped me plug in on that. And also something that happened was that for most of my life, I really wanted to be a scientist, an engineer, something like that. But the 2000 election, when George W. Bush won, really got me into politics because me as this, 15-year-old looking at this election going, wait, so you're telling me that like the smart, nerdy guy lost and like the frat boy won.
Yeah.
Like, this upsets me in very fundamental ways.
How can that be?
Exactly.
Well, you know what? I have a quick George Bush, the second story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was had the honor because we've been a supporter of the Clinton Foundation, our firm, and the Clinton Foundation was, of course, people don't realize how close the Bushes are and the Clintons.
Oh yeah,
they're very close friends now. And so the two different libraries, the Clinton Foundation and the Bush Library, they get along, they do a lot of things together. And they have a program for like emerging leaders. Think of it like Leadership Houston, but by the two libraries and to help on the national level. And it's a small elite group and so forth. And I was invited to go to their first like graduation. And I was, it was a very small group and it was just us and all of, there's like 30 of them that graduated. And it was George Bush, the son, and it was Bill Clinton, and it was John Major, no, I'm sorry, Blair, and there we were, and they asked Bill Clinton a question, and it was a policy question, and he had this long-winded, wonky answer. So then they asked George Bush the same question. Said, "What about you, Mr. President Bush? What do you, what's your?" And he goes, "I don't know." He goes, "Bill spoke so long, I forgot the question." and it was so sincere and so funny, but yet it shows the differences in their mindset. So I get exactly what you mean. So going back, so you were a young writer in St. John's. Your dad was sort of a writer, and he really saw the talent in you, and so got you kind of, let me help foster that talent in my son.
I wouldn't say he was a writer because that wasn't necessarily when he went as a career, but he just had, a casual background in it and an enjoyment of it.
Especially in college. But yet you still went to law school.
Right.
And that goes back to the get a second backup plan. How did you like law school?
Oh, I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. There's this this Onion article, and I forget the exact headline, but something, like... people don't know if they have what it takes to drop out of law school until they go to law school.
You know what? That is probably one of the most, that should be like a fortune cookie or something. You know what? We have a caller already. Is there a Junior on the line? Junior, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can. You got me, Gilbert Garcia, and you got Mr. Evan Mintz. And in case you don't know, not only is he a Renaissance man, and we're going to talk about that because he really knows so much about so many things, he's the editorial editor for the Houston Chronicle. And before you go, Junior, and before we leave, Evan, I want to go talk to also about how much the Chronicle matters. People who think about, well, Noah reads a Chronicle, that's not true. And I'm going to go through some of those stats. What do you got there, Junior?
Okay, first of all, let me say thank you, Gilbert, for that prayer, and thank you for your guest, Evan. I know you old school like me. Earth, Wind, and Fire got a song called Gratitude.
Yeah.
And it say, I want to thank you.
Yep.
And I want to thank you for that prayer that you prayed about 5 minutes ago, brother, because we definitely need prayer. every day, and I didn't know you was gonna have Evan on, but one of these days, and I ain't trying to tell you how to run your show. Can we have a show on domestic violence? Because every day, up in Virginia, Justin Fairfax committed murder-suicide, him and his wife. Right here in Houston, Texas, the 8-month-old young lady was murdered by her boyfriend, and he's still on the lam. And also the Ashley Janae, YouTube influencer, she was allegedly murdered by her boyfriend. So this domestic violence thing is really done got out of hand. But my question to Evan is, okay, being a journalist, being in the news, and I think me and Gilbert old enough to remember when we had the Houston Post and the Houston Chronicle.
Yes.
But Evan, I look at a lot of news, my man, and I watch the journalists. The very first 5 minutes every night is something negative. Somebody got murdered, there's been a school shooting, just all kind of negative stuff.
Yeah.
My question to you, being a journalist, does that have an effect on the way you guys think, just constantly reporting all this negative stuff? Do that affect y'all life away from the job? And I'll hang up and listen. And thanks, Evan, and thank you, Gilbert, for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Call anytime. Evan, again, now you're the editorial, which is really the opinion of the paper. So it's not like you're writing news. But I don't know if you have a comment about that.
No, I've known journalists who really have suffered from mental health issues because of covering death, murder, just awful things over and over and over again. And they have to recognize when it's time to avail themselves of mental health services. But I say on a regular basis that the greatest bias the press has isn't left or right, it's one of negativity. We report when planes crash, not when they land safely, because it doesn't feel like news. At the same time, it can create a really cynical perspective on the world, and not necessarily for the reporters, but often for the audience, because all they see is bad things happening. And so I try to go out of my way in the opinion section to identify those successes and lift them up. And often they're things that don't always feel newsworthy because nothing is happening. If politicians promise to fix a problem, then the problem's fixed. It's hard to report on it because there's just nothing going on out there. Here are the cars that aren't crashing. Here's the city budget that's balanced. It doesn't feel very exciting. But in the opinion section, we have a little bit more flexibility to go out of our way and say, this may not seem like news, but if you remember way back when this was an issue, this is solved now. And so something that you run into in politics, too, is the people who often fix the problems, who remember the crisis, they will leave office, they'll get voted out, you have turnover, and then you have a whole new generation of people who don't remember how we got to this nice place in the first place.
Very interesting. I appreciate that perspective. And, when Junior called, I've been doing the show for about 3.5, 4 years, and I really got tired, frankly, or frustrated with all the negativity. And I said, someone's got to do something different. And not only do something different, that's why it's called Talk, Inspiration, Prayer, but also be a, for lack of a better word, information source to the people. And that's why I started it. So I do it for fun. And I have not had a domestic violence person. I've got to figure out, I'd love to do that because I think that's a powerful story. I've had things like, and I see we have another caller, Dwight Boykin, stay with me. I know that I've had sex trafficking survivors. I had both Rachel Fisher one time. She's an expert on it. I had Dr. Nishi on. She's another expert. They both were trafficked. I've had things like someone who had survived breast cancer. I've had someone that survived a crash and they were told they were flatlined on the emergency room. I've had some interesting people. I've had people that have gone through the adoption process. Of course, I've had people like the DA talk about the grand jury system, but I have not had domestic violence.
I will say that something that Harris County does really well in that realm is that we have something called the Children's Assessment Center. It provides free mental health services and support for victims of sex crimes and their families.
And is that through the county?
It's through the county, and its funding stream is agglomerated from all these different perspectives. Their office is right in the Rice Village too.
Wow!
And it does something that is successful. It provides services to the people who need it. It does so in a targeted way, but it also sets a model of what we can do if we get buy-in from everyone. And I've always thought it's wonderful that we provide these services to the people who need them, who have gotten caught up in the criminal justice system through no fault of their own, gone through some of the worst things you can imagine someone going through. But then the question is, what if we got these services to kids earlier, when they are at risk, when they are on the verge of falling into a trap set by, someone who is stalking them, who is trying to take advantage of them, and often solve the problems that get them to that point before they happen. And so that's something I've always tried to sort of put out there whenever there's an opportunity, but trying to think positively about how we can make things better looking forward rather than just reacting to the awful things we see in the news in the moment.
I'm going to track down this group, and I'm going to invite them to the show. I think it's a great topic. I have it's just a total coincidence. I saw a movie, and I'm going to go through that movie here in just a moment. But I want to go to Dwight Boykins. Councilman, are you there?
I'm here, man. How you guys doing this morning?
Good. You got me, Gilbert Garcia, tip for me, and you got Evan Mintz, who you probably know well, or you've probably screened with him.
Yes.
The one and only Evan.
There you go. There you go. But Dwight, listen, you've got a lot on your mind because you've done a lot. You've worked in the county. I saw that you were dedicating some things to help improve houses. I saw one of your Facebook posts or something that you did about fixing a house and helping people with a roof. And I saw that you got funding from Suzanne Shank, who I happen to know very, very well. What do you got for us, my friend?
Well, listen, I didn't call for that, but thank you, Gilbert. Evan, good to hear. I saw you guys streaming on Facebook, and I said we would call in. Just kind of disturbed about this other situation, kind of this mental illness. The situation happened in New Orleans, not New Orleans, in Louisiana. I'm sorry. The gentleman who murdered his family and I think he shot his wife as well last night. Did y'all hear that story? I think it was 8 kids. And I don't know where we start with this, and how we start addressing these kind of issues with depression or whatever the issue may be. We can't continue. I know the environment we're living in now, man, is just making people go off the edge, but we cannot continue to allow. I don't know, Gilbert, Evan. I don't know what could be done, what needs to be done, where resources need to be, allocated. People stepping out and admitting they have some mental challenges, or maybe my mother, she raised 6 boys by herself, and I'm sure there were probably times she wanted to throw us out the car. But how people facing these issues and what they're doing. I mean, this is really bothering me that, this man wake up and take the life of 8 children with a gun. And, how many more people we have out there that need some help that we're not trying to help. And I don't know where to start, man.
Well, I'm going to turn it to Evan in a second, but one thing's for sure, what always, and this is an uplifting show, but this is kind of an emotional topic and a sort of a downbeat topic, and it is.
And I'm sorry about that.
No. It needs, again, it's not about that. It's about it needs to be discussed. It has to be discussed because that's the only way you can make it better, by acknowledging that there's a problem. And one of the things that gets me is, and where I was going is, that's in the news today. And I'm so fearful that it'll be gone and forgotten tomorrow. And then we'll go to the next. And guess what? Unfortunately, Councilman, there'll be another thing, meaning another terrible tragedy, someone in a school killing young kids. And we've got to do something about the proliferation of guns in this country. We've got to do something about, it's easier to get a gun than it is to drive a car somehow. So there's so many issues around that. But let me see, Evan, you probably have had some experience through some of your articles and things. Anything you want to comment on that?
I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to guns. One of them is I always get a little upset whenever we conflate gun violence with mental health issues. I know there is overlap. At the same time, there are millions of Americans suffering from mental health issues who don't go killing people. And we don't just want to paint everyone with a broad brush. At the same time, one of the things that we have to deal with, too, is that gun ownership is protected by the Second Amendment. That puts bounds around certain regulations you can put in place. And one of the things I found myself writing an awful lot, particularly back in 2017, when I was part of a group of writers who were Pulitzer finalists for writing about gun policy, was pointing out there are a lot of things the government can't do when it comes to gun ownership. And the responsibility then has to fall on the gun-owning community. One of the best predictors of whether you own guns is whether your friends do, your family does. It's a social phenomenon. And there has to be this expectation that the government can't come down to someone who is having a mental health crisis, who is acting irresponsibly, who is reckless with their gun ownership. You can't expect the police or anyone else to come down and take care of that. It has to be friends. It has to be family. In the same way that you would walk up to a friend who has a drinking problem and says, I'm going to take away your keys, not because I dislike you, but because I love you.
Right.
You've got to have people who can go up to someone and say, listen, I'm going to hold on to your guns for a little bit. Not because I think you're a bad person, but because I think you're a good person, and I want to make sure you stay a good person. And then finally, one of my big picture thoughts on this is even in the places where government has the ability to regulate gun ownership under the Second Amendment, there is a dearth of rigorous research about what works and what doesn't. And this goes back to Congress effectively prohibiting the CDC and other federal agencies from funding research into gun policy. Now, that flipped after 25 years, just a few years ago, so we're starting to get new research, but what we're learning is we don't really know what works and what doesn't. Politicians will often do things based on whether it seems like it works or whether it gets them attention rather than whether it's backed by research. Gun buyback programs, for example, just don't work.
Right.
And at the same time, if you have just free gun ownership, you have this sense of individual liberty around it, then there's only so much the government can do. And we have to look to individuals and society to set expectations for personal behavior. And we have to try really hard to find the policies that do work. And when we do find them, we go all in on enacting them.
Well, I want to make sure this is such an important topic. I want to give Dwight, Councilman, more time on it. But before you do, Councilman, one other thing is I remember a poster, and it was a gun, like a handgun, and it was like in the American flag. And it had like United States, it had like, I'm making up numbers because I don't recall them now. So no one, you can fact check me, but I'm letting you know that I don't have the facts. But it was like some big number, like 50,000 United States, and then it went to these other countries, and they were like staggeringly small. And then like Japan was like, I don't know exactly, like 4.
Right.
And it was all about gun deaths every year. And one thing for sure, if there's more guns, there's going to be more deaths somehow. And I don't know if the research says that or not. But I want to give you a chance there, to have a follow-up there, Councilman, on what you think, because there's no doubt you brought up a great topic, and it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, and Evan, thanks for your response. And my issue again is, I'm no gun expert. I don't even own a gun, and I hope I never have to. No one come and invade my privacy. But my issue again, I don't know what triggered this young man to take his family out, and I start thinking about situations in Houston and around the state where whether it was a gun or something else that make people, you remember, what was her name? Andrea Yates, that did she drown her kids or something like that? If I remember, I mean, what's going on to trigger this for people to take families out, and what can we do as men or whatever? I don't know what the answer is. Evan, maybe you can do some research and write about a men's summit to have a chat group to figure out, bring men together. What are you dealing with? How do we work out these issues? Because you don't do, it's not normal, man. And something pushed this young man and other people to a breaking point to take his family out. And I, it's just bothered me. Given again, I hate to put it down on the show, but I know Evan does a lot of research in different mental, and I do want to be clear about one thing. I totally agree with you when you first started. We talk about mental illness and guns. I hate when they try to compare the two. Ain't no damn mental illness when they go and shoot up these kids at school. They know what they were doing, and they need to be punished for that. And that goes back to NRA, and my opinion on that, you don't want to hear it on air, but when they come in and giving free guns in the state of Texas, hell, you expect death rates to go up. I mean, the police unions didn't support that. But anyway, I don't want to get in that. I want to talk about how we deal with men making these decisions, man. That's not good.
Well, thank you, Councilman. Evan, I grew up in a house that was, I didn't necessarily, I wasn't necessarily, I would call a hunter, but I've hunted. And my dad was a big hunter, my grandfather and my brothers, we were all, and, what my dad made us do is before we could go hunting, we had to take a gun safety class. We all did. All my brothers and all of us did. And then, of course, we had a gun cabinet. And the ammo was separate from the guns, and the ammo was in its ammo case that was locked. And then there's a gun closet that was locked. So maybe one of the things is to be responsible, which is instead of the giving money for guns, give safes for guns, give out small safes or something like that. I mean, I don't know, but I know one thing: we were taught about guns and gun safety before we were hunters.
I mean, I don't know what money we're giving out for guns, but I do know that Abby Kamen, who's at City Hall, she's just appointed county attorney. She spearheaded an initiative for the city to provide free gun locks. And there's a lot
That's what I meant. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
yeah.
I think that you do see that happening because really that is one of the places where the research does bear out that laws requiring safe storage, particularly around minors, have been shown to be effective at reducing suicides. And really 2/3 of gun deaths in the United States are suicides. It's not homicides.
Interesting.
Very so that is a big part of it. And really having that safe storage is really important towards keeping kids safe, but also keeping yourself safe. When people are going through those mental health struggles, simply having to go through that extra step of unlocking the box, of having your ammo separate from the weapon, creates these just little barriers in your thought process and the process which you do things that can get you to stop, think, and reconsider. And so,
very good. I'm going to get now. I learned two things. One, I need to get Child Assessment Center in the show, and then something about suicide prevention, because I think that's really what the councilman's talking a lot about is just prevention. Councilman, thank you for calling in, and
Thank you, guys.
I hope you're moving on back into public service soon because we need you.
Thank you, man. Have a good talk to you guys.
good talking
Thank
to
you, my
sir.
friend. And thank you, my friend. And we have another caller, which is why I wanted to make sure we have all the callers come in. Producer, who was that caller? Was there a Sasha? I thought you said. Was there a Sasha there?
3, 2.
Sasha, are you there? Oh, shucks. Sasha, I think you just hung up. But you know what? Call back. So I want to come back to something, Evan, which is something that I think his name was Junior. Junior called in, which is domestic violence. It's just coincidence. I saw this movie called Christie, was about a young woman, and it's that Sweeney, the new.
Sydney Sweeney?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic actress, right? Of course, she's a beautiful young lady, but she's just a fantastic actress, and she's really good in this role. She plays essentially the most famous female boxer, and of course, she was just kind of a tough young lady, and all of a sudden she got into boxing, et cetera. And where I'm going is her trainer became her husband, and her trainer and her had a mainly the trainer, not really her. She was a victim, domestic violence. And in the show, of course, it's a true story.
Right.
He ended up, this is painful to say on the air, but stabbing her and then shooting her. But yet she got out and flagged down a car in the street, and she survived. And of course, she got 25 years. But it's all about domestic violence. It was a very interesting show, and she's very good in that show. So anyways, I want to go back to Sasha. Is that you?
Hello?
Sasha, you have me, Gilbert Garcia, the tip from me, with Evan Mintz of the Houston Chronicle. What do you got?
Hi. So I was listening a bit earlier whenever you were talking about, Evan, how you hated law school. And I thought that was so funny. My brother, he actually just got accepted into law school.
Congratulations.
So I was just wondering, any pro tips, advice, or why do you hate law school so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think that law school is a vocational experience, and that's something to keep in mind. And I remember going into it this thought that I love policy and talking about policy and learning about policy and politics, and law school is the right place to go for that. And it quickly became apparent to me that's a little bit like saying, well, I'm really fascinated with like Roman aqueducts and the history of aqueducts, so I'm going to go learn how to be a plumber. Like, no, that's not how this works. And so I found myself in the situation talking to people who want to go to law school, and I asked them, what sort of law do you want to practice? And if they don't know, I would recommend just like wait until you know what it is you actually want to get out of law school, because that's when it's valuable. Going in with this sense of I need to learn how to do A, B, C, you get the right clerkships, get the right internships, so that when I graduate, I'm ready to do the thing I want to do. And I think for a long time, a lot of young people look at this as, well, I'm not quite sure what to do with my life, but I'm smart and I could go to law school and it'll all come together. And I find that is a probably waste of your time and a waste of your tuition dollars too.
Well, Sasha, stay with us. That almost happened to me.
Really?
Yes, because, and I'm going to use a different phrase, but I think we're saying the same thing, is in many ways I was looking at law school as like a way station,
right,
till I wanted to know what I really wanted to do. And then young Gilbert, and there was a time there was a young Gilbert, and I had hair, maybe I was handsome, I don't know, but I'm not now, but I was maybe. But I certainly had a lot of hair. But when young Gilbert was around, I would never forget, between my sophomore and junior year, like others, I'm just like lost, because when I went to Yale, I didn't know what I wanted to be or anything, because my parents didn't go to college, and my grandparents, I'm all that story.
Yeah.
And I just applied, and I got in, and of course I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Now, why did I think so? Because my parents told me that was a good profession.
Right.
But of course I get sick of the sight of blood. So then I thought, well, what else am I going to do? Well, of course I thought, well, I guess I'll go to law school. But I don't like to read or write. So I didn't know what to do. So then that summer, I was fortunate enough to get a summer internship with Lloyd Bentsen. At the time, he was U.S. Senator. And then I also got a internship on a Wall Street program at Salomon Brothers. Now, I didn't know anything about Salomon Brothers or Wall Street. I mean, I had no idea anything. And what made the decision for me all comes down to economics, because the Lloyd Bentsen broke the summer up into 3 sessions. And of course, I'm like, well, if I do that, it's only like 4 or 5 weeks. What am I going to do all summer?
Yeah.
And it didn't pay. And I had to get my own housing. And I'm like, well, like that, because, I had to pay my way through college. My parents couldn't help me. And then this thing on Wall Street paid me, I think it was $500 a week, which may as well have been, $50,000 to me, because that was like everything. So I went because of economics. And boy, I'm glad I went, because I saw the very first day as they were processing me, and they showed me the trading floor, which I ended up working on. And it's like I got a message saying, that's what I want to be. And I've been one of those guys ever since.
It's wonderful to come into that.
Yeah, I got lucky, because that exposed me to it, or I probably would have been, I don't want to say miserable, but a disenchanted lawyer, because I thought that's what I needed to be.
Right.
And so it was going to be a way station for me. So I totally 100% get it. So what do you think there, Sasha? Now, we're not trying to talk your brother out of going to law school by any means, because obviously people know I'm good friends with Tony Busby, and he's been a very successful lawyer.
Yeah.
Very successful, and there's others. But what do you think? I mean, did we make the right move? And where are you in your place? Are you going to law school? Or are you done with school? Or where are you in your life?
So I'm actually getting ready to get my PhD. So that's super cool. That's super fun. But my brother, he just got accepted into ASU, Baylor, and there's another school that I'm missing. So those are his top 3 right now. And we're very excited for him. He's always wanted to do this. But you guys have been saying great questions. So I'm going to question him tonight. I'm going to be like, so why do you want to be a lawyer? Just to make sure he's making the right decision.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
And, again, for me, I was thought, well, it's a way station. I guess I go because I don't know what I want to do, and I'll just go. What's interesting about today's times, Evan, is young people, the job market is not very good for them. So I think a lot of them are falling into I'm going to use an unfair word, Sasha, trap of, I guess I'll go get my MBA, or I guess I'll go get my law degree because I can't find a job and I got to do something because I got to pay bills, and so I'm going to do it.
Right. It's a recession indicator when you
Is that
see,
what it- okay.
yeah, when you see more people applying to graduate programs. Usually, it's a sign that they're not able to get those jobs and they need to do something else. And when I went into law school, it was in 2009, and apparently that is the worst year on record
yeah, that's right.
because the economy was down. So many people were going to law school. I went to law school in New York City at Cardozo Law School, and I think it's the only time in like decades that rent went down, and
Yeah.
at least it did for me. And it's just because the city was not doing well out of the global financial crisis.
That's a really good observation. Sasha, anything else for me or Evan Mintz?
Yes, just one last comment. I was actually reading an article the other day, and it was basically saying how a college degree is basically equivalent to a high school degree now, that people do need to get higher education, start getting, jobs to actually pay for their lifestyle. So I just found that interesting. So I would agree. A lot of people right now are not able to get jobs. So they're like, well, I might as well just get another degree so I can be able to compete. But thank you guys for talking with me. I really appreciate it. And I'll let him know that you hate law school.
Well, thank you for calling in. And what's interesting is, again, it's just, I think the overall arching thing I tell young people is do what you love, whatever that is, because if you love it, you're going to be good at it. And then you'll be successful. And I know we have Ernie. We're going to get to Ernie in 1 second. Thank you, producer. And I just think that, but let's go get to her now because I have some other comments. But Ernie, are you there? You got me, Gilbert
Yes.
Garcia, with a tip from me, Talk Inspiration Prayer with Evan Mintz of the Houston Chronicle. And Ernie, what do you got for us today?
Happy Monday and good morning with all of the serious conversation going on that's so needed, as you said, Gilbert. I have two things. One thing I want to make sure regarding the Children's Assessment Center, Gilbert, you're a very strong supporter of Leadership Houston. And in this past year, Leadership Houston is now supporting the Children's Assessment
Oh, how
Center.
great.
Yes, and so you have inadvertently been helping because we have been really using your name as one of our partners, using your name as saying that, you're a strong leader, and that's important. And so, yes, you definitely need to have them on the show. And also, we just did the back to school drive, and then we did in December, we did the actual gifts. So, Mr. Mintz, it is important that I'm going to write in and send you an update on the Children's Assessment Center from a perspective as a supporter. I think people need to know that it's not embarrassing to ask for help.
Well, that's
what
it.
I've learned.
That's right.
What
Keep
I've
going.
learned- What I've learned from the Children's Assessment Center is we don't see these families. Often we want to be there and see them get their gifts and see them get their books for their school. It's embarrassing to some families. There's a lot of machismo Hispanics that their wives will say, I can't ask for any help. My husband doesn't want a handout. But that's not what the Children's Assessment Center does. What they do for the city is provide services that we as a city pay for.
Right.
You are a family and you deserve these services. And there is no handout. This is what you are eligible for as a family. And I think that's what a lot of people misconceive. And you don't have to go over there and be, catered around and everybody has to know your business. That is not it. What happens is they come to these events and there's no one there but them. The people that are working there are the people who are doing the service. And so I just want people to recognize, take the stress out of life for your family by seeking help. And the Children's Assessment Center is a key location. They have 4 or 5 metro buses that go through that area right there off of Kirby, Bissonnette, and off of University Boulevard. All those buses drop. People don't know what you're doing. You can't even go into this assessment center to see where these families are talking to the other requests for help for consultation. I think it's a beautiful operation in the sense that it gives families their privacy, but they can still gain and really prosper and not feel so overwhelmed by having to tell people what their needs are.
Well, I appreciate that. And you know what? I'm going to get him on because I think that's a good topic. So I thank you for that, Evan, bringing it forward. And I just appreciate the councilman, Dwight Boykins, sort of bringing it up. And Ernie, you adding on to it. I'm going to get him on because I think that would be very, very good. And it will dispel that myth about, well, I don't want anyone to know. At the end of the day, who cares? If you need help, get it. That's what it's there for. And so, Ernie, thank you very much. You got anything else for us?
Oh, just also let you know, your friend Campbell Marshall is a former board member of the Children's Assessment
Come on.
Center. And he is for years. I think over 10 years. He might still be on it. But he's the one that introduced me, and then we all got involved through Leadership Houston. So, Gilbert, you have been helping. And anybody who is a member of Leadership Houston is a strong supporter of the city. That's goes hands down. And so I appreciate you bringing up, especially during a time when food has gone up, every accessibility to health care has gone up, the accessibility to actual health care for EPA, people who really need a mental stress evaluation. I just feel that this is an avenue, and I appreciate you, Mr. Mintz, bringing it up. And I appreciate Gilbert always trying to do the positive side of what can be done. So thank you so much.
Thank you for calling in, Ernie. Please call in again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to go to something, and again, callers, just keep them coming in because Evan's ready, and he enjoys hearing from the people. He does.
do.
Yeah. 832-570-8075. I want to talk now about the paper, the Chronicle, and I happen to be a big fan of the Chronicles.
Thank you.
I love it. I do. I have to admit. Not admit. I'm acknowledging it's fantastic. And there's two things I want to say. The first is y'all endorsed Anise Parker for the Democratic nomination for county judge.
That's right.
And I was surprised. I posted it, and I had like 6,000 comments or something like that. I mean, it's humongous. And it was just amazing to me how many people were saying things, and this is why I really had such an interest to bring you on, that just they don't have the facts.
Right.
And many people said, oh, well, the Chronicle, they just endorse Democrats, and it's just a Democratic-leaning paper. It's all about Democrats. And I would say, because I was trolling myself, and I'd go say, no, don't you realize they have endorsed many Republicans?
Right.
And I'm going to give you the whole floor on this. And then I would engage with them. I'd say, and they'd say, well, who? I'd say, well, Orlando Sanchez when he ran, and Tom Ramsey, and at one time, of course, it's escaping right now. But so many different people, and I said, many people. Let me ask you, give the facts, because you do just as many Republicans, Democrats, and of course, you do endorse in the Republican primary, so you're doing all the research, et cetera.
Right.
Go through all that for us.
I mean, it's pretty funny for someone to say, oh, you're just
Steve
endorsing...
Raddick. That's who I meant.
You endorsed Raddick. It's funny to see someone say, oh, you're just endorsing the Democrats. This was a primary. No Republicans were running in that race, but we endorsed on the Republican side as well. And specifically in that race for county judge, we endorsed Alexandra Mueller against Lena Hidalgo.
Yep.
We endorsed Ed Emmett. In fact, going back to 1972, when the first Republican ran for that seat in the modern era, we have endorsed Republicans for county judge. And a lot of it is that the greatest bias that the editorial board has is towards incumbency. We don't think you should be firing people unless you've got good cause. And also, we represent Houston and the interest of Houston. And often that means free trade, free markets, free people. We're pro-business, but not at the expense of worrying about the environment, not at the expense of worrying about the conditions of working people. We want to make sure that everybody really is being lifted by that rising tide.
See, I think that's great. Let's go back. We had a couple of interesting things go on some of these, but when we're talking, there's a lot of things you can't see it, Evan. So Lester Jordan, I thank you. It says here, I'm listening. Great info. Thank you, Gilbert, for all you do, sir. Thank you, Lester. Oliver, let's continue the conversation on mental health awareness. Thank you, Oliver. There were some others. Charlotte, We need to talk about mental health awareness. Thank you for providing this platform. Jacqueline, God bless all for this awesome network. Thank you, Ernestine, focus on positive change through, I mean, there's so many things coming in. Tune in from Katie. Thank you, Alfred. So I just want to make sure you knew that, Evan, that you're getting a lot of applause
I love
there.
to see it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's important. So going back, I think it's just, it's not my job to toot anyone's horn, other than it is my job, I feel, it's not my job, but my passion, to correct the record. I think sometimes people don't have the record right. On the Chronicle, they don't have it right. And it's not like I'm trying to say, well, God, it must be a right-wing thing, a MAGA paper. No, what it is y'all look at the facts. And I participated in the process. Y'all didn't endorse me, but that's okay. It's not about that. It's about, I could tell that the Chronicle did a whole bunch of work and really knew the issues when you came to your endorsements.
Well, and
that's what's key.
And something to keep in mind is, first of all, the opinion section is separate from the news section.
Oh,
What we write about our view and those endorsements, the newsroom has nothing to do with it. They don't know what's coming. We sit on separate floors of the building. We have different bosses and different structures. But something I really take pride in is when we do those endorsements, even if you don't agree with our conclusion, we want to give you enough information to make an informed decision. And in fact, we just published endorsements for the Katy ISD school board election that's happening right now. And in one of those endorsements, we said, here's the person we endorse. Here's another candidate. They're not ours, but if you are a progressive activist, you might like them more. And just trying to make sure that people are making these smart, informed decisions, particularly in these nonpartisan races. In your primaries and your nonpartisan races, people don't have a whole lot of information. As much as I don't like to say it, in that general election, just having the D and the R next to people's names gives them a whole lot more info about the candidates than you would get otherwise. Now, sometimes it gets people to support really bad candidates who probably shouldn't have made it through that primary process in the first place. But this is what we're trying to fix on the front end, is give people really good information and really distinguish when you have candidates. Often you'll get a bunch of folks running. All of them are pretty good. We like one more than the others because they're better on policy or have more experience. Sometimes you get those races where there's a really good candidate that everyone should like, and sometimes you get one where there's a really bad candidate who's proven they don't have what it takes to hold that seat and are desperately trying to get that information out to voters.
I think that's great. And I just recall, having gone through the process, how prepared and by the way, so Houston, when I went through the process, it was me, it was John Whitmire, who of course is the mayor. It was the late, great Sheila Jackson Lee, who was in Congress 40 years. And, of course, the mayor was in the state Senate for 40 or 50 years. And then it was a panelist about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 people. And we were there, I bet you must have been like 2 hours. I mean, it was a long time.
Yeah.
And what struck me more than anything else is how committed all of y'all are. Whether it's not about what the outcome was, I could tell y'all did a lot of research because you had a lot of real pinpointed questions, but they were fair questions. There was no cheap shot on anybody of the three. There was no cheap shot, but they were pinpointed. And whenever we gave an answer, y'all would do a follow-up that was trying to probe a little deeper, which is my way of saying you were trying to get through any of the normal political rhetoric. And I think that's great. Let me ask you, as personally, if you can, which is, like, how many hours do you think you put on that process? It has to be, hundreds.
Hundreds and hundreds of hours. But, it's something that I see our viewers, our readers love. Because everything is digital first these days. When I first started the Chronicle, we were thinking about, okay, how do we hit that print deadline for tomorrow's paper? Now it's all thinking digital first. And because of that, we can see who's reading what is getting people to subscribe. And it leads to a lot of big picture questions about the future of journalism. But for this right here, I can see that endorsements are a top subscriber driver. They get people to pay for the Chronicle because they see value in having information about the people on the ballot. Now, you can go and get your LGBT caucus endorsement slate. You can get your C Club endorsement slate. And you kind of have a sense of what those different organizations' priorities are. But it doesn't give you a whole lot of information beyond the name.
Right.
These are the people we endorse. When you read those Chronicle endorsements, we're trying to give you information about all the candidates. And something that I've really tried to get in there, and it's a little cutesy, but it's giving star ratings to the candidates on a scale of 0 to 5. And what this shows is that most candidates, they're somewhere in the middle. They're about 3, maybe 4 if they're really good. Because if you have the wherewithal to stand up and run, you probably meet sort of the minimum conditions to run for office, do the job okay. But what we try to point out is who are those 5-star candidates who are really good?
Right.
Who are those 1-star candidates who are really bad?
Well, let me ask you this. This has to be your dream job. Come on.
It is. I love this.
I mean, I can feel it. I hope you're doing it a long time because I think you're good at it. And one of the things I think, and this is not a cheap shot at anybody, y'all have had a couple over the last, 15 years, some different people, but you have a lot of runway. So hopefully you'll be doing this a long time.
And there have been some great editors there. I
Yep.
started under Jeff Cohen,
Yep.
Who is the editor-in-chief turned opinion editor, who's very much a mentor to me. And Lisa Falkenberg is this incredible
love
columnist.
Lisa. Yes.
She's so good. She took over, but she went back to being a columnist. That's where I came in. I had left the Chronicle, actually. After I had my first kid, I needed a little break from journalism. Talking about mental health, they need a little mental health break. But I came back when the position opened up because I had lots of folks from lots of different corners of the city saying, Evan, we know you love Houston.
Yep.
You care about the city. You should do this.
But
and here I am.
But before you did that, you were part of that editorial process.
Right.
So you were probably the most, prepared person to be in your position than others because you had already served and had written some editorials before, right?
That's right. I started as a freelance writer for the endorsement process.
Okay.
I had spent a few months after law school in the Harris County Prosecutor's Office as a baby prosecutor doing these misdemeanor cases and these low-level welfare fraud cases where someone got more food stamps than they probably should have gotten because they didn't report a side gig doing babysitting. And all of that extra food stamps that they got adds up over time, and suddenly you've got Class A misdemeanor. Suddenly you've got a low-level felony. And it was just very depressing in many ways to be like, this is how we're spending our time. And of all things, I ended up talking to the editorial cartoonist at a UH football watch party I got invited to. He let me know that they had some recent retirements. They needed someone to come in and help with the writing, particularly the endorsement process. I said, well, I'm this lawyer. I'm in the courtrooms. You should bring me in. Here's my resume. And it turned out that the editor of the opinion section at the time, his wife was Mimi Swartz, who I had worked with when I was an intern at Texas Monthly. And so I was probably one of the few 25-year-olds in the country who had a big portfolio of unsigned editorials that I'd done as a student journalist. They liked that. I started helping out with the judicial endorsements. They said, well, this has been very helpful for the primaries. Can you stay on for the general election? This is 2012. I said, yeah, sure. And October rolls around and they go, you have drained our freelance budget. Would you like dental insurance? I said, I would love dental insurance. Like, okay, you're on.
Well, there's no doubt it's your dream job. I hope you not last. I hope you're there a long. I hope you have this passion for the next 25 years because I think they need you. We have another caller. You're welcome. We have another. Jumpin' Jess, are you there?
Yes, sir, Mr. Gilbert.
What do you got for us? You got me, a tip from me, Talk Inspiration Prayer with Evan Mintz of the Houston Chronicle. What do you got?
I just wanted to ask Evan what's the Chronicle's batting average for picking winners.
Oh, that's very interesting.
I don't think about it too much because we go in just really the sense of who the good candidates are. Though part of the question is, what's your path to victory? It feels a little wasteful to endorse someone who doesn't really have a good path to winning. But I will say I have noticed anecdotally, I haven't crunched the numbers on this, that we have greater influence in the in the municipal races, in those city
local
hall
stuff.
races. Yes, where it's not partisan. It's kind of lower turnout, and it really is driven by local issues where folks read the Chronicle, take us seriously, are going to be the ones voting. At the national level, it's sometimes hard to override whatever that nationwide conversation is, but in those municipal city hall races, we see that we have a lot of influence. In the Democratic primaries, we see we have some there more so than on the Republican side. And something that I'm really trying to push is to show Houston Republicans that, they should trust the Chronicle and take us seriously, particularly in the opinion section, even if you don't agree with us. I joke that the Chronicle is the #1 publication for written conservative opinion in Houston.
No kidding.
Well, who else is out there right now doing written opinion?
That's right.
Because we live in an age of
That's right.
screens, of where your top influencers, they are on Twitter, but they're also on Instagram. They're doing short form video. The idea of taking your argument, putting it on the page, and having to structure it in 500 to 800 words is increasingly a lost art. And I think that's sad, because when you have to write what you believe, it forces you to have ordered thoughts. It forces you to think what you really do believe, in a way where if you're just recording yourself getting all worked up about something, you might not even articulate it in a way that anyone can understand.
So it's almost like, just because we've been talking about gun control and so forth, it's almost like the difference between a rifle and a shotgun.
Yeah,
it's a rifle shot rather than a shotgun blast.
Right. You watch the videos that people do, and this is great. What we're doing is great.
Go.
But there are folks out there, and they just kind of ramble and they talk. What they say might not be fact checked, and so folks just will say things. And when you have to get it in the Chronicle, one, we fact check everything, but we also help you write it better. And we'll get a lot of writers to go, thank you for helping me kind of order my own thoughts, help me understand what it is I'm trying to say better. But then when you get it out there, you're going to get your letters to the editor in response. You might have another op-ed or editorial on a different perspective, and really trying to foster a big conversation that shows off not just the racial diversity of Houston, but our political diversity as well.
I really love the thumbs.
Oh, thank you.
Because it's kind of like a editorial snippet rather than a whole editorial opinion. And so and if you haven't seen it, Houston, it's essentially a thumbs up or thumb down, and sometimes it's like a sideways about an issue. Or a person, a political person or something, and they'll sort of say, here's a thumb that's so positive, and they'll write a little short paragraph or two on it. I love that.
Well, thank you.
It's got to be fun to write.
It's fun. The whole team kind of puts your ideas for thumbs into our thumb Slack throughout the week, and then when it comes to Friday morning, we write it on. It's a good way for us to be able to touch on things where maybe we don't have the capacity to do full editorial. Maybe it's not something that rises to that level. Often we're looking for things that are funny that we can point to, but it is a real way for us to try to make sure we're touching on everything going on in Houston.
Yeah, we're having so much fun. I only had to check my watch only because in a second you're going to know why, but I'm just keeping track of the time. And of course, whenever I eat carne guisada, which is all the time, I go to Laredo Taqueria. Now, some people say tomato, some people say tomato, some people say Laredo Taqueria Laredo. Tomato, tomato. It's all the same. But at the end of the day, not the food. And by the way, they don't pay me anything for this, so that means it's really good carne guisada. And by the way, they brought some for you.
Ooh.
Yeah, believe me, it's delicious. Jumpin' Jess, is there anything else you got for us, pal?
No, sir. Just I know a few people say that an endorsement from the Chronicle is the kiss of death. But on the other hand, I think that they're batting about 800, so they got a pretty good record, in my opinion, picking winners.
Well, at the end of the day, I think what Evan is saying is, whether you agree or disagree, they're trying to put the facts out there, and then you can make your own decision. That's really what they're trying to do.
A perfect example of it. Aaron Reitz was a hard right-wing candidate in the Republican primary for state attorney general. And when we wrote our endorsement of that, we pointed out that, frankly, we found a lot of his expressed beliefs to be terrifying. That he was saying that he viewed Democrats to be not just a political opposition, but an enemy and a threat to the country. And we found that sent shivers down our spine, and that's not a healthy way to view politics. And when we wrote it up, he shared it because he said, hey, they got me. That's exactly what I believe. That's what I think. They may not like it, but I want all of you voters out there to know.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then after we ran this endorsement saying, please don't vote for him, we think he's scary, he wrote an op-ed for us.
Yeah.
And so we were more than happy to get his perspective in the paper, even though we disagree with him, because we know it's our goal to get the vast spectrum of local opinion in the paper.
Wow. You know what that means? Go ahead, put it on. Carol Burnett, I used to love that show. And
Are you gonna tug your ear?
yeah, and I'm gonna do when she would do the Tarzan call. But no, you know what it means? We've already been on the air for an hour.
This has been a real treat.
Can you believe it?
We could keep going.
I know it. I'm going to have you back. Do you mind? Because you know what? I didn't cover what I wanted to cover. But this is where it says time to say so long. Because that's what she would do at the end of the show. Because I really wanted to, again, dispel another fact or myth that when people say, well, nobody reads the Chronicle, that is false.
That's not true.
Oh, my God. I printed this whole thing I wanted to review, so I'm going to save it because I'm going to get you back. I'm going to make you come put a date on. The amount of people that make that digital engagement, the amount of page views per month, I'm just going to give one stat. The digital engagement from HoustonChronicle.com is 125 million page views per month.
That sounds about right. You know, we have
Per
more
month.
eyeballs on our content than ever. The challenge is getting those subscribers. It used to be that if you wanted to read the Chronicle, you kind of had to pay for it. Now there are these expectations of how you get content online. It's very different. But we have more people reading what we write than ever before.
It's unbelievable. I want to go through all this because people just need to know. But Houston, Harris County, that'll be for next time. Because at the end of the day, these are difficult times. Help your people. Help your neighbors. Give them a hug. These are difficult times. People need help. People need love. People need support. That's what this show's about. It's about information. I'm Gilbert Garcia with a tip from me with Mr. Evan Mintz for the Houston Chronicle. And you know what? We will see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Houston, Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, Talk, Inspiration, and Prayer. We're going to now be on television. We will air every Saturday on Comcast 17, AT&T Channel 99, Phonoscope Channel 96, Suddenlink 99, and also HMSTV.org. Every new episode every Saturday at 7 p.m. And follow me on social media. See you then.